So thank you again for having us. I'm you again, Louis Alozie from Nigeria. I'll be your host. Very quickly, we want to call on Edwin. Edwin is the head of marketing, WorkPay. He sits currently in Kenya. Edwin, please, just in the next 2 minutes, we would like you to just tell us a background about the host today, about the company that has powered this beautiful workshop or webinar, just so our listeners can have a feel of what we do and the journey so far. Edwin, please go ahead.
Hello, you can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Edwin, thank you.
Sorry about that technical hit. My name is Edwin Mwangi. I'm the head of business at WorkPay. WorkPay is a HR and payroll solution incorporated in the US, but with subsidiaries in Kenya and Nigeria, and we are expanding to other African countries. Our main objective is to empower SMBs to manage and pay their employees on time every month. So we are solving the problem of managing employees, whether they are full-time employees or remote employees, the whole process of from when they are onboarded all the way to when they are paid, even when they separate with the company. That's the business that we do. We'd like to appreciate this chance to just enjoy the fruits of globalization and have this call. And the purpose of this is just to see how we can share with our partners information on how businesses, I know some of us who are logging in are our clients, how you can use this opportunity to learn more about how you can scale your business, how you can learn from WorkPay or the people related to WorkPay, and also be able to catapult your growth. So this is opportune. We are in Q1. We are worried about targets. We are also worried at WorkPay about them. And we are in the process together. So it is a nice opportunity to learn. And WorkPay is, of course, in the software as a service business. We make money via selling software and via transactions. So it's very important, even as we delve into this, to know how we make money and how you also make money, which is the business model. And I'm sure the host will be discussing more about that. I represent the co-founders. Co-founders are Paul Kimani and Jack Kibigo. Paul was not able to join us. He had another commitment, but he passes his regards to all of you, and wishes that we have an interactive engagement. So that's all for now. Back to Louis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Edwin. Just before you go off the call, please, very quickly, can you share with our audience maybe how many businesses and how many employees we have in our database? So at least that shows an example of what we have done over the years, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Louis, for that question. So we are currently serving over 400 SMBs in Kenya and Nigeria combined. We just launched in Nigeria in November last year. We are just getting traction there. We are about 4 or 5 clients, if we have not signed others today or yesterday. And the number of employees on the platform are 50,000 plus. And month to month, I think approximately we are doing 2.5 million USD in transactions. So that's in terms of the traction that we have currently. We have a new product called Payroll for Remote Teams that is currently supporting over 100 employees and growing. And that is what we want to grow, because as companies have adopted the working from anywhere model, then they're hiring technical people from anywhere across Africa, and they don't have to set up legal entities to be able to manage or pay them. So WorkPay steps in, takes care of the contracting, the managing, and the payment of these full-time employees or contractors, and makes sure that the process is seamless. Louis?
Yeah, thank you very much, Edwin. One last question, sorry, before you drop off the call. I know there was a reason behind coming into Nigerian markets, not just because of the number of people you have in Nigeria, but again, because you want to use Nigeria as a hub for West African markets. How is B2B to you, to WorkPay family? What is B2B to the family?
B2B is the model that we use, selling to businesses, but eventually we will have to, because we also have embedded finance in the pipeline, we'll also have to extend it to B2B2C. So we want to be the employees go-to place for things like benefits, insurance and the like, and also embedded finance in terms of early wage access. So you don't have to wait until the end of the month to get your salary. If you need some money at the middle of the month, then you can use early wage access to access some of the services. So we see Nigeria, yes, as a hub. It is a door to West Africa, but of course, also in terms of the adoption of technology, Nigeria is way ahead. So that is why Nigeria was very strategic for us. And we hope to scale from Nigeria to Ghana, to the rest of the Francophone Africa, and even to North from Nigeria. Louis?
Thank you very much, Edwin Mwangi. It's been wonderful talking to you this afternoon. Sit back and relax as we welcome again the guest speaker of this event, in the person of Edward Ndegwa. Edward Ndegwa, can you say hi to the house before I introduce you, please?
Hey, how's everyone? Louis, how you doing, man?
I'm good.
Can
and
you
you, how are you today?
And you can see me as well, huh?
Yes, I can see you. I can see you.
Am I looking good?
Yeah, looking good and ready for us today. We're ready to actually learn from you a whole lot. So just give me just 1 minute. I'm going to run down through your profile.
That's okay. That's okay.
We can take it right from there. So, viewers, listeners, participants, we have on the call, we just said to ourselves, he who the cap fits, let him wear it. This man sitting right before us is one who has been proven, who has been tested and trusted for this very topic. And I can assure you that after the next 1 hour, 30 minutes, you'll go home smiling and you'll be happy that you were able to register for this event. Because after now, your business will grow from a 0.10% to a 20 to a 50, maybe to 100% before the end of this year. Because the tactics this man is going to deliver to us will be such that not just that it's been proven, it is currently being used everywhere in the world to ensure that businesses are moved to the next level. Who is this man we're talking about? He's no other person than the lead facilitator for the Mastering Business Growth Program, Nairobi in Kenya. He is the CEO of Smart Sales Limited, a sales company that empowers small and medium enterprises to increase their sales capacity through training, mentorship, and coaching. Then a little bit about this Mastery Business Growth. Mastery Business Growth Program, MBG, is a signature business development program developed for entrepreneurs and SMBs and their sales teams to enable small and medium enterprises increase their sales capacity and grow business revenues more consistently, not just in the country of domiciliation, but of course, everywhere in the world, because the world is a global village. And of course, we're just expanding. And that is the man we're talking about today. Of course, he is inspired by entrepreneurs around the world. He has over 22 years experience in sales and has worked for a lot of global brands. Currently, he led 3 different sales teams in different sectors to grow sales from a 0.0 to 100 million Kenya shillings. If you convert that to a Nigerian currency, we're talking about over 500 million naira. That is huge. Then if you talk about the combination of all these businesses, he's been able to move this business from a 0.0 to about 1.9 billion Kenya shillings. That is about how much? About 5.4 or more billion naira in Nigerian currency. That is huge. Any business that can do this is, of course, a huge business. Then his global experience, what has he got? Some of his previous experience includes being part of the global pitching team for the second largest communication group in the world back in 2013, all right? During which time he pitched for some of the leading global brands like Microsoft, AstraZeneca, and Statoil. This is just to mention but a few. In more recent times, most recently, he has supported the following startups, companies, institutions, and sales. Of course, he's currently supporting WorkPay. We'll have a lot more companies, the Safaricom of this world, the M-Pesa of Kenya, and of course, some of the brands too in Nigeria that this man is currently driving. I'm telling you, we don't have any other thing to say about this man other than to keep applauding this man for the things he has done. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this platform, this wonderful day, the third day in the second month of this year, 2022. Edward Ndegwa, please put your hands together wherever you are, but please, I should not hear it. Thank you. You have the floor now, please. You have the floor. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So please, it's your time. We are here to learn from you. What has B2B got to do with your businesses and your journey so far? From Kenya, from Nigeria, all over the globe. Please share with us. Thank you.
Hey, Louis, thanks a lot. A little clarification. Actually, the telco that I worked with was Airtel, not Safaricom, just clarification. But of course, as an agency, I worked across the board with many other organizations. So let me just go back where we were. And Louis, please don't go away yet. I like your energy. So just before you go, another 1 minute. So the reason why I was asking you about how I look is because that's so interesting to me, because most of the time as salespeople, you're traveling around meeting clients. And one of the things that I've noticed happens a lot is you move from a meeting to another meeting. And of course, each time, maybe whether in your car, you pull down your mirror and from one meeting, maybe you even lost a deal and you pump yourself up again and you need to get into another meeting and you look at yourself and say, I hope I look good, you know, inspire yourself and jump in for another meeting. I mean, that's just the life of a salesperson, B2B even more, and we'll be talking about that. So Louis, thank you for putting together this special event. I'm really excited about the fact that, you know, we're putting sales up there, especially B2B sales up there where it should be, because the majority of small and medium businesses that are operating, being open today, are the future of this continent, and they're the majority, and they are potentially the biggest opportunity for any entrepreneur or salesperson, you know, who's looking to put out his solutions and services into the market. So without further ado, I just want to take this time and sort of like share a screen. We're good. So I believe everybody can see my screen now. Louis, you're going to be my my sounding board. Say yes. Or Daisy.
Sure, I can see your screen. Thank you very much.
Good?
I can see your screen.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. So just very quickly, so we are a unique company, sales company, unique because you don't find many companies that develop themselves into an agency that supports small and medium businesses. Actually, the last 2 years, we're basically working only with small and medium businesses. We only have one large corporate, a global company on our portfolio, and that's intentional. So I think the point I want you to take from this slide is that there's a big opportunity for us to focus on smaller businesses. I spent maybe the last 20 years chasing big corporate and multinationals. I can tell you there's a lot more money, of course, a lot more work working with small and medium businesses, which is partly what we're going to be talking about today. So our topic today, B2B sales strategies to win, for you to win in 2022. So I want to start by just touching on the topic that Louis talked about a little bit. What distinguishes B2B from B2C? I like to use local examples, and I mean local examples. If you move from Nairobi, you go to Dar es Salaam, you go to Kampala, whether you end up in Lagos or Accra. When you look at some basic business models that operate in this market, they're the same, whether it's retail And I want to use a simple example of hardware, which you'll find in most markets in the same way, your typical hardware shop. Your typical hardware shop or owner, whether it's run by an owner or a manager, does both B2B and B2C. So on one hand, they're serving customers that walk in every day who are individuals, but at the same time, when you look at their portfolio of clients, you realize they've got a church in there, a school in there, a college in the neighborhood. And these businesses are mostly not equipped to handle these different customers because they sort of like just take customers to be the same. And I think one of the things that's going to be happening a lot more in the future is education, is skilling these entrepreneurs on understanding the difference between the two. It's so important for businesses to start understanding and classifying their customers differently depending on the effort and the skill required to bring the business on board. So I think a lot of us here, of course, we know this stuff, B2B, B2C, but I make it a point to always distinguish this because I work with smaller businesses. And some of my clients, especially the startups like Workpay, they're working with a lot of these SMEs, so it's so important that we understand them because that's where the biggest opportunity is. And before we close, I'll tell you my experiences of why I think there's a lot more money to be made in SMEs and global corporates. So what distinguishes these two? Let's look at it. So when you look at a B2B sales environment, this is where a business is selling its services and products to another business. So there's of course a lot more demand for you to have a sales process. I know a lot of us work with sales processes, but I'll just touch on that a little bit. Give us a little bit of an overview in case anyone wants to learn, because I saw some of the questions were around sales processes. So it's correct. So think of the same hardware that I just talked about. And let's come down here. Let's not think about just technology businesses, because the truth is those are not the majority of businesses in sub-Saharan Africa. These retail, smaller kind of businesses, and some are really big. Some of them do hundreds of millions in turnover, so they're not small businesses. It takes longer time frames to convert a client, and there's reasons for this. So those are just the characteristics. Decision making requires multiple stakeholders. For those of you who may be working with these businesses, sometimes it's possible to get the owner, even if he sits at the shop, to make a decision. But you also know sometimes he says, you know what, I've got to talk to my partner, my husband, or my wife, so I can come back to you and whether we're interested in what you're telling us. And there you go. So you don't get immediate decisions. But we know on the other hand, if that's B2C, and let's look at a B2C example that I like to give. That's a Mercedes. I know we all love, good cars, and if we don't, at least we appreciate them. But let's assume that you've got somebody who is selling a Mercedes and it costs $100,000. If you would find a buyer that's got that kind of money in his bank account and he's interested, it's possible that you can meet him now and convince him to buy the Mercedes and he buy it. So there you go, B2C, 100,000, decision is emotional, it's made there, and the sale happens. But at the same time, let's just look at $1,000 in a CEO of a global corporate. He can't make that decision. He'll probably call in his executive assistant or call procurement to come, and that's just the difference. And these simple characterizations of the differences in these two environments or models is very important for us to continue educating ourselves so that we understand. Because it's so important that we continue educating entrepreneurs and sales teams about the difference. Because a lot of our small and medium businesses, they don't understand. They get frustrated. And it's so important they understand this so they can grow. This is a different time. We've got a number of emerging trends. We can't even talk about this at this time. It's been around for 20, 30 years. Google. Nowadays, any buyer can Google stuff, find out what the prices are in the market, in international markets, which means it's more knowledgeable. So you have to get better at helping the buyer to understand why they need to listen to you. That's very important. Buyers as well, they have to comply to procurement and compliance. So all these things affect, and these mostly come in B2B business. So you as a B2B sales professional, this is all stuff that you need to deal with and prepare yourself. You want to close a sale. So sustainability, that's big now, especially if you're dealing with, global businesses, multinationals, that's big. Ethical organizations, there's a lot of ethics. I remember a few years ago, you travel to one of your clients, even though they're a global company, and during Christmas and Easter, you'd be buying gifts, to go give out, and you'd walk into offices and you'd give guys gifts, and be happy because they've gifted you business. Many multinationals don't even allow that anymore. They even say that you have to declare. So it's just simple. Business is changing, you know, and that's just the way it is. Buyers are becoming skeptical. They're unsure, you know, and that's a reality. So how are we preparing ourselves for this? And then most importantly, especially in B2B and bigger companies, buyers are more aware of the risks that come with making decisions. Good decisions and wrong decisions at the same time. I want to try and give you an example from my past. So I spent, out of the 22 years that Louis talked about 10 to 12 of those, 10 more seriously, I was running a marketing agency out of East Africa. And of course, the main headquarters was in Nairobi, but we also had operations in Tanzania and Uganda. And I saw this particular a trend affect us because we were a reasonably small but successful independent agency. So we want the McCanns or the big, you know, global names. And it's amazing just how much marketing directors and marketing managers, what it took for them to make a decision to take a big budget and hand it over to an independent agency. And it's as simple as this. It's so much easier to give your advertising business to a big Ogilvy or McCann, and if they fail, you'll say, look, hey, these guys are the biggest names in the market, so if they fail, hey, you know, it's not my mistake. But for that same marketing manager or marketing director, you know, if he's taken a smaller independent that people are asking, who's that? What have they done? It sort of like looks odd, like, hey, you know, maybe this decision wasn't a good decision. You know, maybe that's his, maybe there was some ethics there, and that's why, you know, we gave our big budgets to a smaller agency, and that's a real threat to growth to smaller businesses. So you can see how all these factors affect us as we go into the market. Of course, these factors are different. I just gave you the example of advertising, but this is real. These are checklists that you as a B2B salesperson need to familiarize yourself with when you're discovering, when you're prospecting. These are things that you need to understand when you're speaking to your buyers, you know, for you to win, for you to win in the year. And we're going to talk about winning towards the end. So very quickly, knowledge, compliance, you know, a skeptical buyer, and most importantly, these guys are aware of the risk. Nobody's willing to lose a job just because you've got some good ideas. You've got to do better than that, yeah? So let's look at strategy number one, because now we've gone into the strategy. We want to talk about what kind of strategies are winning. Solution-based selling. Buyers want solutions to their problem, not your products and not your services. I'll say this again, not your products, not your services. So don't spend too much time telling us about your features, what they can do. First of all, just start by listening to us, which we are going to talk about that when I give you an overview of the sales process. That's the most important thing. They want solutions. So for them to actively engage with you, and this is from the beginning, from prospecting, you have to show them how your solution solves their problem based on how they understand their problem. Based on how they understand their problem, which means most of the time, you need to first understand how they understand their problem before you even consider shifting them on that. That's very important when you're deciding on your messaging and your approach during prospecting. How do they understand their problem? So I can know how to structure my solution accordingly. And then once I've built trust, I can engage them and show them the value that we bring on the table. So for example, for ourselves, this is year 2 of our program. At the MBG, we are learning to sell and develop our programs to support entrepreneurs and their sales team generate revenue. So we adjust our offers based on feedback. When we started 1 year ago, we developed a program purely for entrepreneurs. In our minds, we knew the problem, and I was an entrepreneur. But within 3 months, we had created at least 2 other versions of the program because entrepreneurs, and the majority of them, told us something very important. This is good, we like it, but we need to execute it. So we need to come with our teams. You also need to create a program to support our teams. And they even later said, actually, the biggest problem is also help us to get salespeople that can support. So you can see how our product offering continues changing. And if you don't listen to your entrepreneurs, to your customers, your ideal ones especially, then you're not going to be around for long. So of course, one of the things you have to do is to manage how you're morphing your solutions, because also you don't want to go into areas that you're not skilled in delivering on. So you got to look at, where you can go and where you can't. So solution-based selling. Buyers are not looking out. Nobody wakes up asking, I'm looking for WorkPay. I'm looking for MBG. No, they are looking for a solution to their problems. Number 2, strategy, process-driven selling. Now, we've talked about the B2B environment. We've talked about how complex emerging trends. So if we're going to be successful here, how can we do it if we're working at random? It's getting harder to sell nowadays. Is that true? I guess yes or no, depending on who you ask. According to the Mastering Business Growth and myself, we look at sales as a sequence of activities executed by sales and marketing teams that lead to a business getting a customer. Sequence of activities, things that you do. So if it's a sequence of activities, how will you track them? How will you know what works and what doesn't? You need a process. Since sales happens within relationships, very important, anything that you're building trust on, that's a relationship from the first interaction. It's important that we have a process that enables us to scale our activities. How many more? How much more? We are all chasing targets and quotas. And as Louis said, this is January. We want to make sure we hit those targets in the next 2-3 months. By the end of the month, we know what we did or what we didn't do in January. February is here with us. We need to make up for that. So we need a process to be able to do that. So to win in 2022, you need process-driven selling. So you know what's working. Remember we talked about activities in a sequence, and I'll talk about this. I'll give you an overview. That's working and what's not working. Otherwise, how are you going to know what to adjust? Or are you just going to continue doing the same thing? I want to give you some good examples. In 2021, our inaugural year for our program in Nairobi, unfortunately, we're only available in Nairobi for now, but we're moving out to other locations in the future. We moved our conversion rate, and conversion here is I'll show you on the pipeline. I'll talk about it in the next 2-3 slides. We pushed our conversion from 56% to over 80% by just including one extra criteria and strictly adhering to it. That's it. And that blew our productivity in sales, just one. And being strict enough to say, no, doesn't fit in. We're not going to take that, we're not going to go ahead with this. And that's just a difference in things. So achieving targets in sales is key. How do you know how many leads you need to generate in order to achieve your target if you don't have a measurable, scalable process? How is it possible? So one, strategy, solution-based selling. Strategy number 2, process-driven selling. Yeah? So what do we have? So let's just look at, I told you I'd give you a slide overview because we're big on process. The Mastering Business Growth is based on process. I spent 22 years selling. 3 of those businesses, and they're pretty traditional businesses, moved from 0 to over 100 million in less than 1, between 3 years and 5 years consistently. The question I asked myself is, what was the differentiator? Process. Just that I applied things in a certain way consistently, and that was the key factor. So even though later, like one of the businesses failed later, but the success short-term that we achieved was based out of having a process in sales. So it's no guarantee, and we can talk about that because of course you have to be solving a problem that's big enough in the market for you to grow a business in a sustainable way. But the key thing to grow, you need a process. So gathering leads, qualifying leads, acquiring new clients, pitching prospects, growth, lead management. All these things are elements within the process, the important things that you need to be doing as you build your process. So very quickly, I'll just touch on, just so that in case there's anybody here that wants to quickly go through or maybe wants to implement a process, I'll just quickly go through that just to explain this. So this is just stages that you develop. It's so important that we don't apply this literally. So this is just a stage that helps you to see based on the actions or what the customer does, exactly where they are. So you know what to do next. So that's just why we've got to run this on a pipeline. And I'll very quickly show you a pipeline that we developed for one of our programs. It looks something like this. Incoming entrepreneur, that's any entrepreneur that can get into a program. Engaged, that's somebody we've reached out, change context. So you have those different schedules, and if you're using a good CRM, you can develop it as it's marketing ready. This person shared their contacts, and they're willing to listen to what it is you're doing. They want to listen to, share their problems so they can listen in. Sales ready. You shared your costs. This guy is ready to buy. They want to know what's the price. Opportunity lead. This is key. For us in this case, opportunity lead was anyone that's already made a commitment. We're going to pay for the program by this date, and they're already looking at their calendar to come in, register, join. So you want to do a lot of the qualification up above so you don't spend too much time, because the lower you go, the more time you spend. So now, what's the next strategy? Social selling. This is my favorite, because I can tell you one thing. In the last 2 years, if I didn't teach myself this stuff, and I only got into social media around 3 years ago through LinkedIn, 2.5 actually, 3 years actually. I'm not sure exactly what I would have done during COVID. So these entails just very simply developing and building relationships which are a part of your process online. That's it. So what does it include? Writing content, sharing relevant content, connecting with other people on social media, picking social media platforms that work for you initially. And for me, most importantly, so it doesn't mean it works for everyone, picking one social media platform that you think is better for you and for your possible clients, and focusing on it so you can learn the tricks, you can get better, and then after that, you can start considering working on other platforms. So that's how I did it. So this was my way. I'm not necessarily saying that's the only way it works. But why did I specifically pick LinkedIn? We just started 2.5 years ago. Let me show you why. In 2020, that's at the heart of COVID, LinkedIn was my biggest, or our biggest, source of consultancy projects. Actually, by November of that year, all our previous projects with corporates or smaller businesses got finished by November, including cancellations. If we didn't have LinkedIn, that was it. Biggest source of consultancy projects. I'll just talk a little bit about what we did. 2021, that was last year when we launched our program. LinkedIn was the biggest source of leads for the Mastering Business program. At least 40% of all our leads, both for our individual entrepreneur programs and our customized programs, where we take bigger businesses, more medium-sized businesses, LinkedIn. And that's the reason why. How did we do it? That's a different topic, but I'll tell you. Content. So you can follow me at Ndegwa, Mwalimu Sales on LinkedIn, but purely I just write, it's content driven. So a lot of leads are generated just by people seeing what I do and connecting with the problems I'm solving for other clients, and they reach out. Simple as that. Of course, the hard work is in developing the content. That's a discussion for another day. Number 4, partnerships as a strategy. So what are partnerships? These are just collaborations. Collaborations between two parties that have mutual interests. This is key. There's got to be mutual interest. It's not one-sided. If it's one-sided, that's not a partnership, and it's not going to work for long. Building a partnership that could result in a mutually beneficial relationship that can bring you closer to your prospecting targets. So you get to meet a lot more prospects. That's really key and very important. So the right partnerships can enable you to have growth. It's that simple. But of course, this also depends on what kind of business are you in, who are your lead prospective clients, who are your ICPs, those ideal client profiles. You've got to have that figured out completely. Yeah. So I want to give you an example of a partnership, just so that also this is practical. It's not just a theoretical discussion. So a good example, and we actually haven't implemented this yet, and purely the reason for not putting this strategy in place is that our program has been growing without it. And this takes a little bit of time, and I'll tell you why. We were starting discussions with financial institutions based on a portfolio of clients we have, but that takes long. And so we've sort of like parked that because it requires resources, and the other strategies are working for us pretty well. But I know in the coming days, we're going to do this. So for example, we can find a financial institution that's working with entrepreneurs, and we help the entrepreneurs with sales. So as they get loans or they get financial support, they also get to know how to grow their businesses. And on the other hand, I give the bank access to my willing client base. And willing is a keyword here, so they can engage with the bank. That's a really simple. But the thing about partnerships, it's got a pathway. It's got a pathway, sort of like a runway from making contact to agree on the deliverables. There's a data issue that comes in. Trust has to be built. Most of the institutions are big, so there's just this whole protocol of bringing all the key stakeholders on board. This partnership works, so that takes time. So partnerships are good, but you got to also plan for them because it takes a certain amount of time to sign and put together, but also to start bearing fruit. So you got to look at the strategies that you're using to grow your business in 2022. Decide what you can start. So if you want to start partnerships and you want it in January 2023, you're not going to start it in January. You need to start it at some point this year because you need some potentials. You got to reach out to them. You got to pitch to them. But you got to decide how much time you want to invest in this. So solution-based selling, process-driven selling, social selling, and partnerships. Some 4 good strategies that you can apply in B2B this year. Yeah. So what's next? Referrals, man. These are my favorite. Referrals. Referrals. In this time when B2B is skeptical, trust, risk, man, you've got to hack these things. And the only how to build risk, how to manage that is to drive referrals. Buyers and customers are ever more skeptical and less trusting. Nothing beats referral as a customer acquisition tool as it comes loaded with trust. So you've got to drive that. And you're not going to sit back and wait. You have to do something about it. And these are just some of the ideas that I've put together. There are a lot more. And please feel free to put them in. Hey, we're all salespeople, so you can put on the chat, a few ideas or ways that you can drive more referrals. Man, it starts with always do a good job, man. You're not going to get referrals unless you're delivering. So our programs have got to deliver. You've got to do your job. The WorkPay team's got to make sure that the application's working for their clients so they can get referrals. You've got to create a referral program, and that's very encouraging, especially for some sectors. It works, create a referral program. If you bring in a customer, we're going to do this for you. I see it all the time. That works as well, depending on the sector and how well you execute it. Ask for referrals. Many a times I find salespeople, even entrepreneurs, that don't ask for referrals. You have to ask for referrals. We exist, some of us, in cultures where people referring doesn't come naturally. So you have to ask for it. But you also got to spend some time with your clients, so that then you're in a position to ask. Spend time with them. Position yourself for referral. That's very important. So that's our next strategy. I'm really looking forward to the questions as we head on. So those are some of the winning strategies that I prepared for you guys today. I can see we're short of time. Louis gave me a lot of time, but you know what? I want to give part of that time to you guys so you can ask some questions. And Louis and I can take some of those questions so we can answer you. So my final, and I love this one because it's my favorite, and I'll tell you why it's my favorite. Always be prospecting. That's how I call it. That's how I define that. Always be prospecting. It's like somebody that wants to be a farmer but doesn't plant, and they expect results at the end. It's just not going to happen. Dedicate more time to prospecting. Rule of thumb, 50% of your time. Desktop, research, learning, identifying. That's very important. For a B2B sales executive, this is it. This will ensure that you're always surpassing your targets or at least meeting them. That's proven anywhere in the world. It ensures that you always have more leads to work with, which means, you remember somewhere where I talked about strict adherence to qualification? You're not going to do this if you don't have enough leads, because you're always going to be desperate. You're always going to say, no. I can't disqualify this lead because I won't hit target. You need more, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, you need more leads so that you have the luxury of choosing, saying, no, I need to be strict. Last time I brought in a prospect or a lead with this kind of character, it didn't work. And you've got to be able to disqualify. Yeah? The abundance of leads also gives you the confidence to be more strict. This is really important. That's why you are able to drive higher conversion rates. If you're not prospecting, then you're always desperate and you're always avoiding qualifying correctly and strictly, which is important to drive up your conversion. So this is my favorite. Always be prospecting as a sales strategy. Key and most important. Yeah? So I want to now push this back to you guys. Closing. What's the takeaways for this? And you know what? Focus is important. Like one takeaway that's so key. please put it in the chat so that other people can also benefit. Sometimes we see things from our own perspective, but when I see a takeaway from somebody else, I learn from it. So please, let's connect, let's put that out in the chat so that people can read it. And that sort of like brings me to the end of a discussion on the strategies. And now, of course, what we're going to do is we go back to question and answer time. Yeah.